Have you ever come across an idea so sharp it feels like it could slice right through reality itself? Well, today, we're jumping headfirst into one of the most profound and, yeah, challenging texts in all of human history, the Diamond Sutra. It's a short text, but whoa, it packs a powerful punch about the nature of literally everything we think we know.
All right, let's get right into it. The thing that's so amazing about the Diamond Sutra is that it doesn't kick off with some grand, booming proclamation from the heavens. No, instead, it all begins with a question. A really, really human question from one of the Buddha's disciples that cuts right to the heart of what we all struggle with every day.
So this disciple, his name was Subhūti, he asks something that I think we've all wondered about. He asks, how should one live? How should one progress? How should one control one's thoughts? I mean, listen to that. That isn't some lofty, abstract philosophy, is it? Not at all. That's the fundamental challenge we all face. It's all about how to quiet that nonstop chatter in our own heads.
So, how does the Buddha answer? Well, he doesn't just hand over a simple list of rules to follow. Instead, he offers us a tool. A way of thinking that is so sharp, so powerful, it's named after a diamond. You know, the only thing that can cut any other substance. This is a logic designed specifically to slice through our most basic illusions about what's real.
Okay, so how does this diamond-like logic actually work? It kind of follows this specific three-part formula. First, you take a concept, something we all think we understand, something that feels solid and real. For example, a world.
Then, and here's where it gets a little mind-bending, it completely negates it. It just states that this thing is not a world. This is the paradox. It's the part that's designed to make your brain just pause for a second and really question the label you've been using.
And then finally, it brings it home with, therefore, it is called a world. You see what it's doing? The whole point is that the word world is not the actual, messy, indescribable reality. The label is just a convenience, a pointer. The sutra is training us to see that huge, huge difference between the map and the actual territory.
So now that we kind of get the tool, let's see how it's actually used. How does this diamond-cutting logic work on something really central to Buddhism, like the idea of a bodhisattva? That's an enlightened being who makes this incredible vow to save everyone from suffering.
And this is such a brilliant illustration of the shift in thinking. On one side, you have the ordinary view we're all familiar with, a hero, a bodhisattva, vowing to save all these separate people. It's a beautiful, totally noble idea. But then you look at the Diamond Sutra's view. A bodhisattva applies that diamond logic and realizes that the very concept of a self who saves and an other who is saved, well, they're just that, concepts. In reality, no separate beings actually exist to be saved in the first place.
Okay, wait a minute. So if the idea of separate beings is an illusion, then what about the Buddha himself? How are we supposed to perceive this ultimate figure of enlightenment? Well, the sutra does something amazing. It takes its own logic and applies it right back to its own central figure.
And the Buddha's own words here are completely uncompromising. He says that if you're looking for him in a physical body or trying to find him through sounds or words, you're on the wrong path. You're just grasping at the form, not the formless reality it's pointing to. The Tathagata, which is another name for the Buddha, isn't a person. It's the very nature of reality itself.
This leads to one of the most brilliant metaphors in all of spiritual literature, the raft analogy. Think about it. A raft is incredibly useful for crossing a river, right? It's essential. But once you get to the other side, what do? You don't strap it to your back and carry it around with you. You leave it behind. The sutra says its own teachings are exactly like that raft. They're a tool, a vehicle, meant to be used and then ultimately let go of. So, after just relentlessly cutting through every single concept, self, other, the Buddha, even the teachings themselves, the sutra ends. And it doesn't end with a neat little definition. It ends with a final, sweeping, and deeply poetic vision of reality. It presents this cascade of fleeting, transient images, starting with this, as a star, a fault of vision, a lamp.
And it continues, a mock show, dewdrops, or a bubble.
And then, a dream, a lightning flash, or a cloud.
And the final line just ties it all together. So should one view what is conditioned. And that word, conditioned, that's the key. It means basically everything in our experience, everything that arises and then eventually passes away. The sutra's final instruction is to see our entire reality with this sense of profound and, ultimately liberating impermanence.
And that leaves us with this final thought.
The Diamond Sutra isn't just some ancient, dusty text. It's a practical tool for your perception. It's handing you a lens, or maybe it's more like a blade, and it's asking you to look at your own life, your own identity, your own problems. So the question it leaves hanging in the air for us is this: what would you see if you looked beyond the labels?